Hi everyone, my name is Mandilakhe, and I would like to invite you to our brand new podcast, which will be taking place on KNR Radio. According to you, it's starting on the 7th of May between the hours 5 o'clock and 6 in the evening. We would be happy to have you as part of our viewers and listeners, as we will be talking all things faith, and we will have different experts that will be encouraging us in matters of our faith, also showing us ways in which we can apply faith on our daily living. May God bless you. See you on the 7th.
You are listening to Faith in Motion with Mandilakhe Nontenja on Kena Radio According to You.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Faith in Motion once again. Welcome to our 7th episode of our podcast. It seems like we've just started yesterday, and I can't believe that we're already on the 7th episode at this particular time. So we are excited and we are glad that we're growing. It might not be in all aspects, but we're growing in terms of experience. We're growing in terms of consistency. We are growing in terms of content. We're growing in terms of the people that we are actually getting to interact with. So we really have been getting quite a sense of acceptance and a sense of welcome of that which we are actually doing in this space. And I just want to thank each and every person that has been joining us on every next Sunday, actually, because we are literally one day in a week. So thank you so much for taking the time to meet with us and actually making us feel heard and listened to. It's actually been a joy to serve you in this particular manner. It's definitely a new experience for some of us, but we are growing, and I think in no time we will be looking back and saying it was worth the exercise, the practice, the sacrifice, all that which goes into getting ready for tonight's show. So we are really glad to have you, those who have been with us until now, from the beginning. But also we want to welcome those who are joining us for the very first time. We want to say we hope you will stay with us and that you will enjoy that which we have to offer in this show. We believe that each and every person has something to take in order for them to go into their week with a sense of empowerment, sense of vigor, sense of strength, and sense of wisdom. And today will be no different from the other Sundays. We believe that what we're going to be sharing today with our special guest will definitely be inspiring. It will also be informative, and I think it will empower a whole lot of us as we are dealing with Youth Month. This is one of the critical months our country embraces. We know the history of South Africa. We have a whole lot of lessons to take and to learn from our predecessors, those who were youth in the 90s and in the 80s, because they are challenges might have been different from today's challenges, but I think the principles are the same, because we do have our own challenges in today's world, yet they are not the same as theirs. But I think the tools that they used in order for them to overcome the challenges of their time can be used. We can adopt them in order for us to take on today's challenges. So with me today, without further ado, I have a special guest who's my friend for a long time, not just for a while, as a long-standing friend, by the name of Olwam Mnqwazi, all the way from Gqeberha. He's not originally from there. So yeah, I must just actually warn you, he's not from Gqeberha, but he is in Gqeberha. And I think at this particular point in time, he considers Gqeberha as his hometown, or his primary residence is in Gqeberha today. Welcome to Faith in Motion, my friend. How are you doing?
Ngozi, thank you so much for the invitation. I am well. I'm well. I can see that you are in two different climates. I am in the thick of winter in Gqeberha, and I can see you wearing your short sleeve, which means that you probably have a heater close by or something.
Yeah, you guessed that right, because trust me, it is we are in the deep of winter as well in Joburg. It's just that we are using the necessary resources to try and alleviate the amount of low degrees that we're experiencing on this side. So yeah, that's why I get to enjoy my t-shirt at this particular point in time. But yeah, man, just before we go any further, just thinking for someone who does not know you, they might have never seen you before, because with this platform, we come clear across the globe. Someone who is in America and someone who's in England and someone who is in France actually gets this station or this radio as clear as they do here in South Africa, and someone who is in the villages and someone who's in the suburbs get it as clear as it is. This is KNR radio, according to you, Aishishizi, in other words. So just introduce yourself, because there's someone who might be listening to this and who has never heard or seen or seen you. Who are you? Where do you come from?
Always a difficult question, but yes, I grew up in King Williamstown, Ezwelicha, as 09.
Yeah.
Studied Lower Primary School, Kwanokolo, Lower Primary School, which is in Zone 8. And then I went to Enzondelelo, Higher Primary School in Zone 9. I then came to Port Elizabeth to do my high school, where we met when I was 14. I was 13 when I came, but then we met when I was 14 in grade 8. From there, of my high school years, I did 2 of my high school years in Johannesburg, in Maritzburg, a place called Westland, and then came back to Port Elizabeth, where I also did my university years at Nelson Mandela University. Thank you so much. I am being served. Thank you. So, so it must be a Father's Day.
You're welcome. Yes.
Father's Day. Yeah. So and then I don't know how much of my history do you want. So, but I regard myself as a resident in Nelson Mandela Bay, because that's where we stationed with my wife. We are residents here. So you can count how many years. I don't know when I will be naturalized. But another thing is that my dad is from here. So I have a dual citizenship from Ekon Nalapepai, Ekabech.
Yeah, and no, don't worry. We also left PE so that you can replace it. So it's fine. You can you can consider yourself naturalized by virtue of me moving out of there.
Yeah. I think I've taken just your space here.
No, that's no problem. Yeah, and yeah. So one of the things that we touched on already is the fact that this month, or actually today, is Father's Day. Happy Father's Day, man. Before you even say anything concerning that aspect, happy Father's Day to you. Great work you're doing with Umibala, and for sure we will celebrate the Husband's Day some other time. For now, let's just celebrate the Father's Day. What would you want to say to the fathers who are listening on this show at this particular point? As someone who definitely didn't have a great experience of a present father growing up, but what would you want to say concerning fatherhood to fathers based on the experience you have garnered until now?
First of all, there is no Husband's Day, so we do everything in this day. We receive all the gifts today. Because if you never Valentine's Day, you probably won't receive those gifts. Or it will really be, a few things. But no, man, Father's Day is an important day in a year. Yeah. It happens in June, which can also be conflated with the Youth Month. And so the business of media focusing on Youth Month and every activity that is happening, we don't get to see a lot of fathers being thoroughly celebrated. We only hear the negative throughout the course of the year. And then one day in the thick of winter again, and during the June month, the Youth Month in South Africa, we then have this day where people celebrate fathers. So it's still not, it's not like a woman's month where the duration of of all these celebrations happen in the course of the month. It's not like the youth month that takes place across the month again. It's a day. It's an obscure day. So maybe that's one thing that we should just say that. I don't know. My screen just went white. Okay,
Sorry.
so I'm still here. So that's one thing that it doesn't have its clear markers, and maybe that's one thing that I want to register concerning this day. But you have these honorable gentlemen, these men, both who are fathers through birth and also who are fathers through the responsibility they've taken to raise other kids, to raise their nieces and nephews, to take care of their siblings, to take care of their community, to clean up, to build schools, to build churches, to build a lot of institutions, and we don't find enough time to flag and celebrate these people. And I want to be the first one, I suppose, to maybe in this conversation to shine a spotlight on the fathers in South Africa, on the fathers in the African continent, across the world, who are trying their best to put their muscle into building society, to put their lives on the line. There's something that is a Jordan Peterson who talks about man not just being important, but being necessary.
Yeah.
And something that is necessary. Okay? It's not ukubaleka inyindo, nokufunwa inyindo, but ukuba necessary is something else.
Yeah.
I grew up also in a family house. A lot of cousins. I didn't have the mother-father relationship or household. So ndabizwa bhuti before ndoluke nokoluka. But I realized earlier on in life, even in my cousin's life, my cousin sisters, mainly my cousin brothers, that look, I do not want to be a friend. I know you guys sometimes want us to be extra nice. I have to drive you. I have to drive principle into your life. I have to make sure that you are at home acceptable. I have to make sure that you're actually dressed appropriately to go out to the streets.
Sure.
I have to make sure that the language that you speak, I have to listen to how you present yourself, how you present even our input into your life, because you might just represent something, and I have to teach you the ways to speak. And those are necessary things in this day and age, where now communication is a make or break now, because you have to write that sentence on social media. You have to put it out there, and it's full of errors. It's full of punctuation, issues, and some of them I still drive them back. One of my cousins, the younger ones now, they come and write something. It paragraph yonke. There's no, and the words are abbreviated. I'm not gonna read this. So there's a point to which we have to take a stand as men in society and actually drive certain level of discipline within our household. And those guys are not celebrated. They are not seen for those things. And I want to appreciate all the men that have actually held the fort where they could.
Sure. Yeah, and just talking on the necessity of men, which is ukunyanzeleka ngesixhosa, I think that's what we're looking for. It's amazing how men have always been seemingly the center of the attack, whether we talk about the enemy which is not seen or by the enemy that is seen. I mean, even if you look back on the times of apartheid in South Africa, the whole segregation practice would actually take the father of the house take him away from their family. And because of that thing has always had the significance of once you take the father away, there's no way you can have a holistic family without the father. So you break the sense of protection of the family, you break the sense of acceptance, the sense of identity, because I believe that fathers bring about a structure in the family. So in you saying that men are necessary, and this is one of the things that I think we are not shining a light on as well, it's actually educating our kids to understand the impact of absent fathers. Sometimes they're absent not because they wanted to be absent, but someone has actually done something, or the society is not promoting the whole concept of having a father at home. We're talking about now prioritizing our happiness and all of those things, and we don't understand that those things have ulterior consequences that affects the bigger the family at large, actually. All right, without me taking too much time, but I think this is actually something that also comes to mind as you are articulating what you're saying right now concerning fathers, and I believe we need to talk more on this thing.
Yes, yes. Maybe just to just close off to say, good look, the question of men, especially our experience in South Africa, which is largely a race issue, like black men who were taken from their own households, whether they were in the rural areas or in any area in the Cape Colony, in KZN, and were all driven through taxes that were that were enforced on them through government policies upon government policy, so that these people can leave their fields because they can't afford to pay these taxes to go and work as migrant laborers in Kimberley, in Johannesburg, in the mines in the 1800s. And now you have this whole generation after generation of men who had to migrate for economic purposes to Johannesburg and stay there for 6 months or for 12 months. They decide whether they come once a year or twice because of available means again. And then you leave the families being raised by women who have to now hold the fort and be both the father and the mother for their kid according to the function. So you have that reality that happens for almost a century, and it's still happening now. We more often have to leave our parenting roles in order to go and look for economic stability, for economic resources, in order to take our children and build our children to school and build our households. So these functions, although anyone can do them, but the history of these men in South Africa is built on that in their absence. But then now, because we know these men only for this particular function of providing, we don't care if he's absent as long as his money comes in, and we get to use to the money aspect of a man. We get used to the provision aspect of a man, and his absence doesn't mean anything. His presence doesn't mean anything to us, because when he's here now, you're gonna have to deal with discipline. That we don't talk like this at home. You that we don't do things. No, man, there needs to be some kind of a structure. Away as long as you buy me this. And so there's a lot of stuff that we can still address maybe when we have our own month eventually. And but lastly on this issue of man, which is very, very important, is that now we have to get used to the world as it is, and then the roles and functions have changed, and then we have to empower our families differently than the historic and the traditional role. But your role is still, lingering in the 1800s. It's still the same. It hasn't changed, even though society has changed. So now we have to talk a new mandate and a new purpose. We have to discuss how this man comes to be. How does he present himself now? How does he raise his family? It's an interesting conversation that I think we should actually have one day.
Yeah.
It's your thought, man.
No, sure, no, sure, and I think it'll actually continue to escalate because we'll forever need fathers, and I think for us it's very key, as you're saying, it's going to be key for us to coin the importance and the meaning of fathers, and we will not be coming up with a new concept per se because of it will still be based on because of fathers are not just mushrooming now; they've always been there, and there's always been the purpose for fathers. And if they are not serving that purpose, we definitely are misusing them at this particular point in time. And that's why we have more men in jail than we do women, based on the stats the last time I checked. So it's actually so. I think for us though, it's very key for us to sit as a generation and begin to consider things, as you're saying. Otherwise, we're going to lose our future by virtue of us misusing what we have at this particular point in time and just moving along without really without reviewing our actions and reviewing how things are. All right, so without us making this show, because of the title for today was not Father's Day. The title for today is the power of youth. So we are actually in the youth month, and again, we have just left that ambit of being considered youth, but at heart I'm very much still youth, because of according to South Africa, you are youth until you're 35, and then after that you're not considered youth anymore. But hey, I'm sure based on what we see on the screen, these two people should belong to the youth still. So we are going to consider ourselves still as youth, and we're going to speak, but I want us to speak in retrospect, because of definitely we've had our youthful days, based on the years that are there in the Constitution, but also we've had our own experience in terms of us. We were once younger, and we have actually taken decision in our younger years, and now we're looking at things as men and as fathers, as husbands, as community leaders at this particular point in time. Therefore, I think there's no better time for us to be able to look back and begin to share how we have actually experienced those things that we have or how we've actually lived life through the experiences we had. What are the things that we'd like to change? What are the things that we actually think that we would hold on to still today, that we feel we are proud of making those decisions? So, but I want us to actually look at the fact that firstly, we just celebrated Youth Day on the 16th. What is the significance of June 16 to you?
In 1976, the youth revolted against the then government that was an illegitimate regime of the apartheid system, and they went out to the streets. We focused largely in Soweto because that's where the whole activity took place, and we have vivid images of this young school kid that was shot, Hector Peterson, being carried by this gentleman and a young lady running next to these two. And it is etched in our brains, in our minds. It's a time of struggle. It's a time of youth participation also in the democratic dispensation, or the fight towards the democratic dispensation. And we hear now these young people of the day coming back 47 years later, telling us what was happening and who was there and all of those stories. And I think of interest to you and this platform, Faith in Motion. I want to isolate just one case that we have not actually said. I read in some of the books that there was a structure called SCM, Student Christian Movement, which were also part of the organizers of this structure that led to June 16 in 1976. And there were many other structures. It was really something that where young people, school kid formation, school learner formations came together, being led Otieti and the others. Otieti, I think Mashinini Faniak, that then disappeared after that. We were never able to see him shortly after that. And the most interesting thing is that a Christian structure was part of organizing such a movement, And right now, we tend to isolate churches and Christian leaders only in the function and the service of people who are in this particular congregation. The world is in need of clear leaders, moral leaders. The world is in need of competent leaders, and a lot of young people, competent and spiritually aware. They are sitting away and not participating or adding their voice in societal issues. So first and foremost, I want to lift that lever up and ask for this kind of a person who would listen to this kind of a conversation and radio station, and maybe your followers as well, to never shy away to raise their voice and their opinion when it comes to societal matters. That lone voice is a very important one, especially where we are. And then it's 47 years later, after June 16, 1976, it's almost 50 years later. But someone said that I was talking to, that the youth came together not because of their age, that they were 16 or 15 or 13, and they came together because there was a threat, a common threat that was coming, that they now have to learn all these content subjects in maths, must be and history, must be, everything must be taught in Afrikaans. And they felt this will compromise, number one, their learning. Number two, it's going to compromise their future, because now they have to learn another language before they can actually learn the content. And they came together because of this common threat. The mandate was clear that this is what we are against, and we come together across board. What can we do, or what is the youth today faced with at a common level for everyone across board, whether you are in church, whether you are in academia, whether you are in the community unemployed and everything? What is this one common threat that we should, or they should, because I'm what can they do to actually address this one common threat that they are facing? And it won't be on the basis of age, because even the demographic youth is different. I mean, anyone between say the age of 18 to 24, they face the same kind of challenges: school and access to more schooling, university and all of that. 25 to say 30, usually it's people that are looking more about graduating or getting a job. And then the ones that are 30 to 35 using this stratification of 18 to 35. Those ones are trying to start a family. They have children. They have different needs. And if you look the younger ones, say from 13, the teenagers who are in high school, say 13 to 18, those ones want to pass a matric. That's their biggest problem in life, is that they should just provide us with good grades and good results. That's all we expect from them. So all these youth stages, according to policy, I don't see someone who's 30 and above as youth, but according to policy, you have to be 35 for whatever the reason, which I won't get into it now. But these are still different groupings of young people with different needs that they could be focusing on. So that is second. Another thing that I need to just raise is that even though you are clustered into this demographic of young people, all of you have strengths and have needs that are different, and you could use them differently. And you just need to be able to know where do you fall and who to clap yourself in. Let me stop there before going any further.
All right. Yeah, and it's good because of, I think, just considering the aspect of you've actually just described the different people that formed part of the revolt or the uprising, who actually had a common enemy, which was beyond matters of difference in beliefs, which was beyond a matter of difference in sporting clubs that they supported or anything of that nature, but they had something that was threatened their future. Actually, I think it was not just a matter of education. It was actually a matter of them being undermined in terms of who they are, because of this was taking away the sense of we can actually be educated in our own language, because that already is discriminative in its nature, in that I have to learn your language in order for me to learn the content of the subject, because of now that means I need to neglect who I am and neglect what is naturally mine. Because of when you actually look, I mean, I think we have studied during a time where the question papers were in English or Afrikaans. If you were writing, whether it's maths or you were writing any other like business economics, or you would get your question papers in English and in Afrikaans. And it's only later where we got to think that, you know what, this would have been rather easier for people to understand the content of the subjects if the subjects were taught in their native language. Because if you are taught in your mother tongue, you're not struggling with the language used. You are struggling with the content of the subject, which are two different things. So I think that that fight actually took into account quite a number of things, because it then meant also the grounds were not leveled. I'm hoping does that make any sense, perhaps?
Yes, no, true, because the function learning is like that. Actually, learning is like that. There's a language element to learning. Can you hear at least the instructions? I'll make an example. Then, and this might be funny for other people, but the first time I read the word parrot was
Okay.
in a metric, was in a metric English question paper. It's not that I've never probably heard someone said a parrot says quenen.
Yeah.
Yes, I I just didn't know a parrot. I didn't know I didn't know. I really didn't know, and it was a comprehension question, which is fine. It was English, and I just did. So that question, as much as I passed, maybe it's just marks that I donated. I just didn't know that we were talking about a bird. And then we also had in high school a biology teacher, Mr. Peterse, very great gentleman, who also was a rugby coach, Mandilakhe. The guy used to teach us biology, but he would say, look, if you don't remember something in English, write it in his class. I'll go and look it up. In English, you are thinking, you don't need to cook, and then you have to and then he knows how to go and fetch a dictionary and translate what you're trying to say, because you know the reasoning, the logic is there, the knowledge is there, but the language is something else. And then lastly, the point I want to make, there's a study that a while back, about probably around 10 years back when I read it, that was saying that when someone doesn't speak, when a young kid, a child doesn't speak English, and in an English medium school, it takes about 7 years for them to catch up compared to someone with, it takes, in fact, they don't catch up in the first 7 years. It takes post that for someone, because now you've grown enough to go and look for what you don't know, and you know how to consult a dictionary, you know how to consult an encyclopedia. Now you have a Google, at least maybe it's like, it has come down to 5 years. So content is something else. Cognitive abilities are not necessarily improved by language, though language is an instrument for one to understand content, to understand the logic that we're trying to do. Mathematics, it's only also when I was at university that I realized mathematics was not really numbers or counting per se. It was largely logic. Can you follow 1x if we say this x is a sum of this z and this y? Even if you don't put numbers there, it's a logic. It's logic. We were taught to fear numbers. Now you see 100, you run, you're like, you are not going to be able to count this. But you could follow the logic, even if you don't know the answer. And then you start at university, you start having lecturers that say, look, I understood the logic and I followed the logic that you were putting across, and I gave you marks for that because that was not wrong. But your calculations were wrong. And therefore that's why your final mark is not 100%.
Yeah.
That's a different kind of learning than what we would have been exposed to, or were exposed to using a different language that we didn't understand. And that's all I wanted to say. That you're right to say that. You are right to say that language is only a part in learning. For that matter, we could just teach people from Ngqamakwe, abafundi who know only Xhosa. We can teach them IT. We can teach them artificial intelligence. If we were to translate all of that into Xhosa, anyone can learn that.
And that's powerful, because that means also it's actually something that we still need to see if we can't actually pursue to actually translate some things into the native language of the people, so as to make it easier, because there's no law really that that prohibits subjects from being translated into native languages. It's just a matter of you will get to a certain point where people will be able to actually use that privilege, because when you get to university, for sure you're going to hardly find a university that's going to have whether it's subjects that are taught in Xhosa, unless you are in the Xhosa profession where you want to be a professor in that particular space. But when it comes to, if we're talking then about you then having to go and pursue whether it's studies in finance or studies in computer sciences, then you're going to have to learn English. So, and also we need to teach people that the fact that you are good in your native language doesn't mean you are bad in English, because there's this assumption that if you speak Xhosa well, you might not be good in English, which is not. I don't think there is any there's any relation between the two, because if it's a matter of comprehension, if you are good in one language, you can be good in 10 different languages. But it's just something that I think we can actually pursue also for the next generation, so that if ever it's something that can be pushed even at university level, why not? So yeah, so without spending too much time on that either, but just moving along, because of time is our enemy when it comes to talking about good content. So one of the things then that we actually got to touch on is the fact that there were Christian movements that were part of the uprising. And one of the things that we can actually take from that, I do know that the aspect of martyrdom, which is actually one being willing to lose their lives for a cause, it's one of the things that I embraced within the Christian space, because Christ died for the cause of the people. So it's not something that's alienated, or that's actually that's far-fetched for people that are in the faith. I just want to, because of I actually thought about it, that the fact that they could get to the point of giving their lives for such a cause might have been influenced by that as well. What's your take on that?
I think one has not yet lived until they've defined or discovered what they can die for. The same feeling was with Nelson Mandela in 1960. Is it in the 63, when he was in the dock and being arrested for his activism, and also something that he's identified as a cause, which he said, if needs be, this is the cause for which I'm willing to die. And also, as it's a Father's Day, and I'm going to stick also maybe with that theme, the fathers and sons, is that, once, if you have not achieved this one thing that you are willing to pursue with the remainder of your life. You are not grounded on anything. There's nothing that bothers you. You are not driven by anything. Everything is just play to you. There's nothing that keeps you awake at night. There's nothing that makes you wake up early in the morning, earlier than anyone else, without any cause. You're like, you want to solve this one thing, and it has not been solved, and you have not really addressed it, and you need to. So if a young man, if a man in society has not found that, then his life might be very flaky for a long time.
Sure.
But what I want to say, I would want to advise that if one person can find just this one thing that they are willing to fight for and to give their lives for, if I die here, I will die an honorable man. I will die an honorable person. And that is principle. That is principle, and that is a cause. That is a very powerful thing. It drives you. It's an innate engine. It's power within you. You search words. You want to address this particular thing. You become a specialist. You become known for this thing. If it's not soccer for you, maybe it's rugby. If it's not rugby for you, maybe it's pulpit and driving a church. If it's not that, maybe it's academia, where you're going to be teaching our generation. If it's not that, maybe you want to make pottery, and you want to bring this view. There's a guy that is doing is using his pottery skills, but to translate his vision of rurality. But he's based in America. He sells all over the world, and it's expensive. If it's not that, maybe it's painting. You just want to paint. There's something about colors that you want to put across. But there must be something for umntu ongenanto abambelele kuyo, ngumntu manoqomba nentlebendwano ininzi engqondweni. They easily waste their words, their time. They easily take everything as a joke, because there's nothing that bothers them. They are not anchored on anything. So that emotion, that innate ability, that residue of conscience, that iyaziwa nguwe wedwa enhliziyweni yakho, uyivukelwa nguwe wedwa. That is what every young man needs to have, so that they can learn how to build things.
Sure.
You see, the most useless person is somebody who does not know how to build anything. Maybe I'm not talking about a building. I'm not on build a child if you are a woman, or build a household if you are a woman, or build a business, or build a school if you are a man. Build something, build a car. Anyone. Build something, build an idea, put words together, write something down, put a painting together, use your creative, imagination, put something. Once you present yourself in a space, when you leave,
Yeah. I hear you well.
So maybe that is what we need to be driving. So our education is not just education for us, but it is to solve problems, is to be invested, is to be bothered and worried about something that we want to do. The state of something bothers me. Yes, that's the right person that you want to actually be associated with, because once you are bothered, you know exactly that your reading will be driven.
Sure.
No, these are my authors. I like these kind of authors. I know it's because there's something they are struggling with an idea. They're struggling. They have identified this Goliath, and they know that they've actually killed a bear and a lion before, but they know how to kill. They know how to kill a Goliath. If they know anything else, if they don't know anything else in the world, at least they know how to point to a target and achieve what they're trying to do. And people will sing that David Sorry, what's happening with my? Oh, a Saul has killed his thousands, and then a David has killed his tens of thousands, because there's something that we would know you for. We must know you for something.
Sure.
Message to the young man. Do I have a minute just to read you something that I wanted to share with you? Like it's a minute.
Okay.
It's Proverbs chapter 4 that says, "Listen, my sons, to a father's instruction. Pay attention and gain understanding. I give you sound learning, so do not forsake my teaching. For I too was a son to my father, still tender and cherished by my mother. Then he taught me, and he said to me, take hold of my words with all your heart. Keep my commands, and you will live. Get wisdom, get understanding. Do not forsake my words or turn away from them. Do not forsake wisdom, and she will protect you. Love her, and she will watch over you. The beginning of wisdom is this: get wisdom. Though it cost all you have, get understanding." Proverbs 4, it will be a nice
All right. I think there might be just a signal issue right there. So it's touch and go. Can you hear me though? Hold on.
Yes, I can.
Fantastic. Yeah, no, thanks. Yeah, we actually got that the Proverbs, the Proverbs passage, and that's powerful actually, because of you are touching on the fact that each and every person needs to establish their purpose actually, because that's what I'm getting out of this. Because whatever we are willing to die for kind of determines what we are here for, our reason for being, our why, and which is actually a key thing that I think it's mostly for this generation. We need to channel this generation towards that particular direction. And I don't want to waste too much time without asking this question, because of we need to establish what are the glaring issues that we think this generation is faced with that might be somewhat similar or compared to the magnitude of that which the 1976 youth was faced with. What do you think their apartheid government looks like at this particular point in time? We are using it as a proverb.
I think the biggest challenge, the biggest struggle that the young people are facing today. That's why I talked about building something. That's why I'm going back to wisdom and understanding, because you can't pursue wisdom and understanding on a broad topic. It's something that you pursue because you have these specific issues that you want to resolve of society. So the one thing that I can think of is this absolute and unabated consumption of material.
Yeah.
Not knowing how to go after something that you want, how to build a vision for what you want to achieve in life. So the quickest way to get to this status of being understood as someone who's successful or a hip and young and happening person is that you then acquire izindo, this unabated consumption of material. You just want to put names on you. You just want to put tags. You just want to put a price. Everything is like maletile. You think by they think most of the young people by just putting this facade and this picture of a good life on Instagram, on social media, then that would address the internal desire to be useful in life. It is an internal desire to have a meaningful life. Meaning in life comes as a result of having you to have settled within your mind, your psyche, your internal being of what your life will constitute.
Sure.
What your life will make. What is it that that we know you for, that you will be known for? So balandoni on your tombstone. What will be read about you, and that is not a good image, a good picture, check-in, and all of those things. It's a mandate, it's a drive, it's a life well lived. But then you don't just stumble across that. You have to pursue it. That's why I read you that excerpt in Proverbs 4 of seeking and pursuing wisdom and understanding. You know, because then that's where, you know, when you sit with someone and you feel like, that was a good 5 minutes. It feels like I feel empowered because you just met a quality person who's full of wisdom and understanding, who has invested much in their lives, so that when they speak, they have considered the words they're going to give to you, because they understand that your words carry life, their energy. You don't just spew them anyhow. You don't just you select your words. You select because you are a well considered person, and that is what I'm missing when we see social media. But then again, I don't want to say it's the whole generation. I want to say it's what we see on social media, and that's where we get to see what the generation is doing. I know there are those ones that are coming up because maybe they are being hidden away, not necessarily kept in obscurity, but they are being hidden for a particular time, and they will show up because every generation will have its own Davids and Joshuas. Every generation will have its own leaders. They will emerge at the right time. But we must not forsake the pursuit of wisdom and understanding, because they are life. They are life.
Yeah, and that's powerful, because of you're saying something key about our generation, and we are really masking. We're masking our sense of being lost, our sense of loss of identity through things. And I mean, for every problem we put a rand to it, because I actually say we put $1 to it, but we put a rand. It's like the more money I have, then I don't have any other issues. And I think the issues of that's why we actually get to read and hear about so many people that are either abusive. I mean, and it's mostly people that are well resourced at times, because I think we are sold to this idea that the more I have, the more okay I'm going to be. Yet there are internal scars that I think cannot be hidden, and we are trying to flee away from that. And I think it's actually something that we need to point out. So just moving on from that point, looking at the time as well. So what are the strategies that we can maybe learn this generation in order for them to deal with their enemy at this particular point? What are the things that we think they should learn? And I mean, you started talking about wisdom, and I we're quoting from the Bible. At this particular point in time, we need God to intervene. But what are the practical strategies that we can lend them? It can be two that we can actually just lend them for them to fight their battle.
Your focus is one of the most valuable assets you can ever have in life. Your focus. So you need to gain that back. So you need to gain your focus back. You need to find time where you sit to think. To apply your mind and look at yourself, and look at the life around you, look at the resources that you have, look at what you have been born into, look at what you've contributed to your own life up until now. Forget what other people did not do or did do. What you have done to actually improve or to even worsen your own life. And then look at where you want to get to, your vision, your mandate. But then now you have to sit and think, how are you going to go through this? How are you going to build this life of yours? If you don't ever build anything in life, at least build a life worth living for you. And that's why I'm talking about a focused mind. It's like an arrow. When you know that, look, even if I get bitten by a dog now, I was going there and I'm still going. I can just shush this door and kick it away. I don't want to use the South African term of kicking away dogs. But you know that your direction is that direction. Even if winds might come, even if detours will actually happen, and you have to go and take a break here, but you know that this is a vision and a destination that I've set my mind to go and achieve, and that you need to spend time for. Some people might have to sit and think. Some people might have to let things go. Some people might have to go into some kind of fasting. I'm going to fast this thing. I'm not going to attend this thing. I'm going to change friends. I'm going to change focus. I'm going to spend my time differently. I'm going to wake up a little bit earlier. I'm going to sleep a little bit earlier or sleep a little bit later in order to achieve this. Gain your focus back so that you can build a life worth living for yourself.
Sure.
Do you want a second one? The second one is that there are always resources, especially for youth.
Yeah.
One of the most dominant characteristic of youth is that a young person has time and they have energy. And they need to use this time and energy to acquire money or resources. One of the characteristics of someone who's older, say in a perfect world, is that they have money or more resources, less energy, and they use these more resources to buy either time or their energy back. I don't want to work, I'm going to get a car. I'll take my money and buy a car so that I can actually cut the time. I don't want to cook, I'm going to buy a takeaway, all of those. But the young person has time and energy. You know, Mandilakhe, we used to walk from New Brighton to Cotswold. We used to walk, some of us walked from New Brighton to Summerstrand for application fees. Some of us walked from New Brighton to Komakaki and back. Some of us would come back from university, South Campus to New Brighton, Ginyao, and all of those things. Because one thing that we had to apply the youthful energy and resources that we had, which was our time and our energy. Some of us would walk, some of us walked and not get paid sometimes, but we said that we're going to build ourselves into these tools, these multi-purpose tools that can drag us out of poverty, out of lack, out of stagnancy, out of a sense of being stuck. There's something each of us can do, and you need to look at the resources you have. And youth, I know you have more time and you have more energy. That is your asset. You use that to acquire the third one, which is the resources or money that you need to get something. But nobody wants to work with someone who's idle. Even when in my projects, I never hire people who don't do anything. People who don't do anything, you would give them something now to go and do. They won't do it because they feel like they still have more time. Most of the time, that's the case. But if you give someone who's already applied on something, who's already doing something with their lives, they will like, I need to do this quick and out of the way so that I can do other things. So you must be in the process of achieving something. If you see it, I was telling one of my nephews, my cousins, actually, he's young. I would call him a nephew, but he's young. He's my cousin. I was saying that even if you don't do anything, you don't have work, you don't go to school, at least when you just gonna sit on this chair, just make sure that it's clean, it's neat around it. When you move into this room, you know that, okay, look, I can't clean it, but let me take this one. On my way out, I'm gonna put it there where it's supposed to go. And shortly, people then realize that, hey, this person always leaves the space better than they've found it. And in no time, a ripple effect of positive things happen, and people will give you more responsibilities and give you more reward because you have started with the little things, and now you'll be trusted with much.
All right. Thank you so much, Mnqwazi. I'm actually just looking at the time, and I mean, there's quite a lot that's been shared, and I believe that what has been shared, what you've shared today is definitely enriching for someone who's listening. It's enriching for me. So there are definitely other people out there. They might be, I mean, some people will be surprised. Some people don't have access to advice or proper guidance in order for them to make changes in their lives. And it's situations like this where they get something that is meaningful for them to actually make a change. Thank you so much, Mklobam, for taking the time to actually articulate the matters that you have articulated, and also sharing your wisdom and understanding of life, and also, just shedding light with certain people that are listening to this podcast tonight. I want to thank you for gracing me with your presence. It's always a good one. I don't take it for granted, and I just want to pray and hope that God will do you good, and that greater things will actually come to your life. We're looking at the time; it's 6 o'clock on the top of the hour. Thanks to everyone that has been listening to us. Thanks to everyone that has commented. Thank you for the comments, and thank you for the likes on social media. Next week again, same time, same place. We hope to see you. May God bless you. Have a blessed week. Thank you.